Okay, let's go ahead and get started. First off, I want to welcome everybody and thank you for taking the time out to join us today. We're real excited to have this opportunity to share with you a very unique offering delivered on FootPrints 2020 platform by RJR Innovations. It's called FAST, for FootPrints Advanced Starter Template. We hope you'll see by the end of the presentation why we're so excited. My name is Joe Packard. I'm a Principal Solutions Consultant with BMC Software and been hanging around here about 15 years, maybe more. Joining me today will be Nicholas Room, Senior ITSM Consultant with RJR Innovations. Your audio will be muted throughout the presentation, so if you'd like to post a question, post it in the Q&A and we'll get to that right at the end of the demo. So, organizations all have kind of different needs, and ITSM providers traditionally develop solutions targeted to specific market segments. We all know who these guys are, right? The FAST product delivers an enterprise solution, enterprise class solution that fits the needs of a vast cross-section of organizations at a fraction of the cost, with a minimal time-consuming planning and costly implementation services. FAST is really designed for those who need a rich, robust workflow and service management solution, but don't want to invest in dedicated staff for the care and feeding of that system. It's also for those people that need the flexibility but can't be limited by the configuration changes they can make. Also, for those who have sophisticated requirements but don't really have the deep pockets to buy into those enterprise solutions. So every organization faces challenges. IT organizations are no different, and common challenges to all IT organizations face, you'll see here. The FAST solution really tries to resolve some of those challenges with industry standard processes available out of the box, simplified design and ease of use, reduced implementation costs with pre-built features, and implementations typically take less than a week, and absolutely you can grow with this product. Typical ITSM service offerings will provide products like incident management, problem management, change management, service requests, knowledge base. Potentially, they may also deliver service catalog or a CMDB. You'll get all of those with what you see today. So, with so many ITSM offerings out there in the marketplace, BMC believes the ability for an organization to be up and running quickly, efficiently, and most importantly, effectively is paramount importance. With FAST, you'll maximize your productivity and standardize processes with this out-of-the-box solution. You'll reduce costs, save time with implementation, again, with implementations taking as little as a week, with room for growth. Before we jump into the demo, I just want to take a quick moment to say that the version of FootPrints you're about to see is a no-cost add-on, out-of-the-box version of FAST, born of a collaboration between BMC and our premier partner, RJR Innovations. Specifically, this FAST solution version of FootPrints includes a fully turnkey framework designed to get your organization up and running quickly and efficiently as possible. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to my friend Nick, who will be taking over presenter responsibilities and take us through the demo. It's all yours.
Thanks, Joe. So I'm going to start my screen share here. Find the MWare. Okay. And let's full screen that. Okay, so I'm going to be presenting today the FootPrints Advanced Starter Template. I'm going to be using 3 different browsers to do it. I've got Chrome, Firefox, and Edge Chromium to sort of present 3 different hats. I'm logged in as the administrator in one, as an agent in the other, and as an end user in Edge Chromium. Before I dive into this, and kind of like Joe mentioned, everything that you're going to see today is 100% out of the box available from day one. So I haven't done anything fancy or special for the purposes of this demo, which is something that's generally pretty rare. So If you see something here that you like and you want that, it's there day one. And that even extends to an extent to the sample users and data that I'll be using. We provide sample CSV imports with all of that data. What I will be going through today is a high-level overview of all of the different functionalities. So to give you some example, we've got our service desk, which is incident, problem, service request. We've got change control, formerly change management, purchasing, release deployment, some FootPrints admin features, preventive maintenance, think of like recurring tasks, project, facilities, HR, etc. And then, of course, outside of that, we have a CMDB built off of an offshoot of the BMC Atrium CMDB model, which is what BMC uses in their enterprise remedy product as well as their SaaS Remedy Force offering. And then we also have a service portfolio with a service catalog and service level management, knowledge base, and an automated known error database which ties into problem management. So I'll get started here as an end user. So if you're an end user, you log in, this is what you're going to be presented with. Like I've mentioned already, what you see is what you get out of the box. This is all just pre-configuration. So you're not locked into any functionality. So if there's anything that you want to change, that you want to add or remove, 100% you're able to do. You don't get locked into any functionality. So when they log in, they're presented with a service catalog. Here, as you saw, we had IT, facilities, HR, so we give them each a slice of the service catalog. If I drill into IT, for example, I can have further categorization for things like, hey, I need to request guest Wi-Fi access or a network drive, or I want to have access to a shared calendar or distribution list, or I want to have a new server set up, things like that. Or just I have an issue and I need to submit an incident about that. When you click on any one of these tiles, it will take you to the appropriate form, which for the most part look very similar to one another, and really follows sort of the design philosophy of KISS, right? Keep it simple and whatever the second S means to you. And really, at a nutshell, what we want from the end users is really two things. Tell us what your issue is and tell us how important this issue is to you. So if I'm going to use an example here of I'm not getting email, I'm not getting email on my cell phone. Okay, so that is my issue. How does this issue impact me? Okay, we're giving you plain English values for them to describe the impact of this issue to them. You know what? It's only happening to me as far as I can tell, and I can work, but just not as great, right? Like, I have my laptop on my desk, I'm getting email there, so I can do some work, but if I'm away from my desk or in the evening, okay, so that's what we're going to do. What this is going to do in the back end is actually prioritize the ticket. One of the philosophies of our design is we want every single ticket coming into the system to have a priority by default. So that means that via self-service, I get limited choices to prioritize my own ticket. If I'm submitting this via email, I'll get assigned a default priority. And if I pick up the phone and call, the agent who I will be talking to will prioritize based on the nature of the call. So I've now submitted this ticket here. Any tickets I submit will show up in the My Open Tickets tab right over here. And this is going to be a single pane of window for anything that you would submit to anyone using the FootPrints platform, be it IT, HR, facilities. So you can see I have some IT incidents, I have some HR requests, some facilities requests, all available here. And I can update any one of these just by going into them. I also have a closed tickets view, so I can see anything that's been closed in the last, X amount of time, so that, hey, I remember having this issue last time. Let's just go back in and see what the solution was and redo it. Outside of the service catalog, they also have access to a knowledge base. The knowledge base, by default, is configured to allow both public-facing articles to your end users, as well as internal-only articles, which could be used only for your team. So the networking team can have their own knowledge articles separate from the server team, separate from the network team, and separate from the end users. And you can really use the knowledge base for any kind of knowledge that you would have, whether that's scribbles in a notepad, SharePoint, documents on a file server somewhere, you can all put them in here. Now, again, we keep things simple. So problem resolution, question, answer. And so in this case, how to reset your Windows password. I can expand on my resolution field, and you can see, obviously, I've got some bullet numbers, inline images, everything to make the article as easy to use as possible. And you can use this for even things that you might not necessarily think of, like for larger enterprises, things like how to change toner or refill paper on, the dozen or so different models of printers that are in the dozen or so different offices you may have. You can use it for how to, how to check your pay or request vacation in the HR system, things like that. Outside of the knowledge base, we then have a service health tab here. So this is really kind of used to where you can list off the different services that you would have at your organization and what type of health they are in, healthy, warning, critical, offline, etc. And this can either be fed manually or through an event monitoring solution. Next up, we have open problems. Now, if you're not familiar with incident versus problem versus service request, the quick high level is incident is I have something and it's not working. I have a laptop, I'm getting a blue screen, it's not working. A service request is I don't have it and I want it. So I don't have this application server, but I want to request an application server. I don't have access to the Wi-Fi and I want to. And then a problem usually will fit one of two possible scenarios. The first scenario is going to be grouping a bunch of incidents together. So, for example, hey, application ABC doesn't work in Internet Explorer because, I don't know, we have to keep Internet Explorer to an older version to maintain legacy software we have at home, and we just bought this new application that doesn't work. Okay, so instead of having 50 people submit 50 incidents to the service desk, that might still happen regardless, but you can group all of those 50 or so tickets onto a single problem record. And then as you update and triage and close that problem record, it will push those updates to all of the child incidents. The other functionality that gives us is that from an end user's perspective, I can see open problems, the ones that you would decide to make available to the end users, and they can subscribe to them. So I can come here as Sam, the end user, and say, hey, you know what? I was going to submit a ticket about this issue, but I see that it's right here. So instead of me submitting a ticket, which is going to require a certain level of effort on my part, and then that ticket needs to be triaged, which would take a certain level of effort on their part, I can just subscribe to it. So I can click my little subscribe button, me too, I'm having this issue, and what that will have done is create automatically a ticket for me with all of the relevant information, and I don't have to do anything to it as an end user, and an agent with this ticket here generally won't have to do anything with the ticket either because it's being worked on at the problem level. The second scenario for problem management is more along root cause analysis, and a typical example I like to give about that is I'm Sam, I call into the service desk because my Windows account is locked out. The service desk's responsibility from an incident management standpoint is merely to unlock the account, even if I call 10 times during that one day. Where you segue into problem management there is after the 10th time calling in, or even the second time calling in, I'll say, okay, what's locking my account? This, you got to find and fix that. And that's where we get into root cause analysis and transitioning to problem management. Generally, it's the same people doing the work, but the work is different. Unlocking your Windows account takes me all of 10 seconds to do. Going through the logs and figuring out what is locking out your account can take a day or 2 days or a week to do. So that's pretty much high-level overview of the self-service side. Now, I have an employee development tab here. This is really used for tracking employee development. It ties into our HR component, and it's where you can request training, certification, or education. So I have like a little training record here that I submitted. Hasn't been filled out yet. Probably should have put a little bit of a demo data in there. But I can track let's say you have your IT team and you're the IT manager, is you can track everyone's certifications, when they got them, when they expire, what classes they have to take and things like that, so that some of that stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. The last little bit I can kind of show off on self-service is with the FootPrints Advanced Starter template, it's not just about having a pre-configured environment from day one, but it is having the supporting documentation that goes along with it. Hopefully we all know or have witnessed that documentation is not something that IT is good at, all right? You think, hey, what's the procedure for onboarding a new employee? Creating the AD account, setting up the email, all that. It might be written somewhere, but odds are it's probably scribbled on the notebook of the person who has the responsibility of doing that, right? And part of that is just we're lazy and we don't like doing documentation because to write all of that up is going to take more time than to do the actual record. Case in point is change management. A lot of people don't do change management for exactly that reason. So we provide all of that documentation to you out of the box day one in a doc file format so that you can rebrand it to your own company logos and colors. So for example, this one here is branded RJR. So here is a self-service guide for the end users, how to log in and out, how to submit tickets, how to update tickets, etc. All provided here already. One last thing, actually, I want to show on self-service, and it's going to tie in more when I get to the agent. So we've already seen navigating the service catalog here. I'm going to go into HR, and I'm going to submit an employee onboarding request. So I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I want to hire Nick as a contractor for the day. Hey, we'll even say temporary for the day to do us this FootPrints demo here. So I'm going to plug in my start date, end dates. I'm going to plug in all the information. Consultant. IT to do a FP demo. So I'm going to submit this. Now, the end user experience on this particular type of request is exactly what we just saw with submitting an IT request. I've got my new request over here, but when I look at this request from the HR agent's perspective, and this is an HR example, but it's true of IT, HR facilities, etc., wherever you have it. And I'm going to show you that this parent record of an onboarding has created several child records automatically and assigned them to the appropriate teams. So I'm going to switch gears now to an agent view. So this is my service desk agent view. I'm logged in as Twizel, my demo user for that purposes. You can see that the look and feel is quite similar, but a little bit more complex is not the right word, but maybe cluttered, I don't know. We've got some extra tabs up here, we've got some extra buttons, and we've got some extra views. And so these views here, what's assigned to me? My open work. Anything that is assigned directly to me, and similar to the My Open tickets we saw in self-service, this covers all of the different types of tickets, whether it's an incident, some tasks, some service requests, problems, etc. Team Open View, same concept, except show me what is assigned to my team. If I refresh this, I get a couple new tickets that popped up from the ones I just created. Open Major Tickets will cover any tickets, and generally those will be incidents or problems that are flagged as a major ticket. And that falls into our incident and problem management processes to which we have the documentation for. So again, provided in doc format so that you can fully brand it. And this gives you your process guide for the process for incident management. And that allows you to, again, from day one, say, here's how we're going to do incident management. So high level, and we can see that our major incident process is over here, and all of them defined so that you can, right from the beginning, hire a new person to the service desk, and with very little training and hand-holding, have them triaging tickets. My favorite slide to present in this document is this one right here. So after we've prioritized and categorized, initial diagnosis, you might say, hey, you know what, I'm new to the service desk. I don't really know this software, or I don't really know, how to troubleshoot this, so I'm going to have to get the guy next to me. This kind of gives you the steps on what to do. Hey, look for an existing known error. Okay, so I'm going to come here to my published known errors. I should have created one. I had one on my Tuesday demo, but I ended up closing it. Look for my published known errors and see if there's anything here. Let me create a known error real quick. I'll just take this one here. So known errors are created automatically from problem management. Now, why didn't that let me edit that one? Okay, I have to create a new one. known error database is created automatically from problem management. So let's just use the example of Wi-Fi down on the 5th floor, right? We've gotten a bunch of calls of people saying, hey, can't connect to the Wi-Fi is down. So I'm going to go ahead and just create this. I'm just going to breeze through this here pretty quick just to get it through. So we'll say multiple people, and we're going to put this in investigation. Once I'm here, you can see this is where I can choose whether or not to display it in self-service. So I'll say yes here. I want people to subscribe. My workaround identified. Selecting yes or no but create known error will auto-create and link a known error record. So this is where the magic happens. So I'll say, okay, root cause, it's a network failure, workaround, use the Ethernet jacks. All right, so I'll submit that guy. So part of the diagram, checking the existing known errors. Okay, is there a known error? Oh, hey, there is. Okay. Is my issue in the list of known errors? No? Okay, what's next? Go to the existing problems. All right, I'm going to come to the existing problems. Is there something in this list here that's related to me? Now, you can search and filter through this list either using the global search available in FootPrints or by filtering on columns. So I could say, hey, show me anything that has to do with network, let's say. And okay, here are some. And I can continue filtering, let's say I had 20 items that showed up here. I can continue filtering on like category and subcategory. Each time you add a filter, you'll see that the column header gets bold and italicized and underlined to tell you there's a filter. So if there's nothing there, I keep following the flow chart. Okay, there's no problem. Where do I go? Is there an existing solution in the knowledge base? Yes or no? Is there any similar incidents? Yes or no? Okay, so it really takes you through the flow. Like the end users, agents also have access to the knowledge base and to the service catalog. Their level of access to both of these and to pretty much everything else in the system is predicated based on their user roles. So the assumption is, as an agent, you will have access to probably more knowledge articles than the end users do. So working on the forms, you kind of saw me navigate through some of them fairly easy. If I take the self-service incident that Sam just created, I can edit that one and start working on it right away. The forms are very simple and easy to use, both from a usability standpoint and from an administrative standpoint as well, with the what you see is what you get type of editor. I'll show you some of that a little bit later on. So I'm going to fill in this form here. So I'm looking at, okay, what was Sam's issue? Sam is saying he's not getting emails on a cell phone. So emails not received on cell phone is going to be my short description. Now, my short description is my elevator pitch of what the issue is. Because when we're looking at lists of tickets or reports, we don't want to have the full-blown description thrown in there because that's just, chaotic. So automatically I can see this ticket came from self-service. The status is new. No one's looked at it yet. So I'm going to flip that to, hey, I'm going to flip it to waiting customer because I'm about to send something back to Sam. This is potentially a software issue. We'll say software email issue. My impact urgency priority was automatically set by what Sam had picked in self-service. That impact, just myself, me, and others, can you still work? And so it's given the ticket a priority of 5, which is 1 is the highest priority, 6 is the lowest priority. Like I mentioned before, you can fully configure the environment, even down to the impact urgency priority matrix. So if you don't like the values that are here or there's too many choices, you can simplify or add whatever you want. Now, a common scenario that will happen here is we'll say, hey, well, you know what? Sam's a VIP, and so I want this to be a priority 1 ticket. And traditionally what people will do is say, okay, you know what? How can I fudge this to be a priority 1? Okay, I'm just going to go to the highest impact and the highest, hey, yay, I got my priority 1 ticket. Okay, but now the problem is you fudge these values. And for reporting purposes and potentially for business rule purposes, business logic, you've now put in information that is incorrect. And so rather than say, let's fudge the impact and the urgency to get you the priority that you want, if you need to change the priority, give you the ability to override it. So I'm going to override the priority. I'm going to say, hey, this is a priority 2 because the person is a VIP. And when you save the record, it gets saved that way without impacting your metrics. Next up, we've got sort of like the people on the form, so primary assignee, CC, and the contact of the record. So I'm going to say I'm going to assign this to myself, so I can type ahead in here, pick myself. Every time you save a ticket, an email goes out. And emails are controlled by the drop-downs next to the appropriate entries so that you can have complete control on a per-ticket basis as to when or when not emails go out. Down here, I have my public notes and internal notes, hopefully self-explanatory. The end user will see what you type in public notes. The end user will not see what you type in internal notes. Both of these fields are journalized, meaning that entries are added in and time-stamped, and they are also rich text fields. So anything that you can do, think of like a Word document, bullets, inline images, tables, etc., hyperlinks, you can all kind of throw in here. So I can say, hey, Sam, did you try rebooting your phone? I'll leave it at that. I'm going to save the ticket. That's the update there. A couple other parts on the form. Obviously, we have out-of-box SLAs, so I can see my SLA information over here. So we've responded to the ticket already, although we have not resolved it. And I can see that my original priority 5 SLAs were canceled and new ones were brought in when I overrode the priority. Out of the box, we do the service level service level management and the priorities based on priority. You could change that to have it based on priority and category if you'd like, but of course that adds complexity to the starting environment, and that's not the goal of a starting environment. Outside of that, attachments, related tickets, and then essentially an automated audit trail of everything that has happened on that ticket. So I can see that in my latest update that was all the service desk agent did, business rules fired to send some emails, and you can see everything that happened in that ticket, all the field changes, etc., so that if ever you need to go back to a ticket for auditing purposes, and that would probably be more something along lines of like either an HR ticket, change management, release deployment, things like that, you have that all out of the box without having to build in any logic to it. So again, quick introduction on that side. So that was incident management. You saw a little bit of problem management. Service request management kind of functions very much the same way as would an HR ticket, facilities. You know, they're all kind of just tickets with fields on the form. Other things that we have here that are kind of unique and worth mentioning. So continual improvement is a big thing. And unfortunately, it's something that is oftentimes underlooked in any environment, right? Usually the cycle goes, hey, we need a new system. Let's draw up some requirements, potentially go to RFP, present our requirements, choose our favorite response, implement the solution, and then nothing, right? And then we say, hey, we're 5 years down the road, and yeah, you know what? That solution is old. It's not really doing what we need it to do, and maybe we should look for a new solution. I don't know if that sounds familiar with some of you guys, but definitely on my side of the house, we see a lot of RFPs like that. And the big problem there is there was no continual improvement that happened. And continual improvement is keeping the software up to date. How many times do we deal with prospects, clients, support, and we say, yeah, what version oh, you're on a version that's 4 or 5 years old? Like, why haven't you upgraded? And then usually the common scenario there is, yeah, well, we implemented 5 years ago. Our administrator left 4.5 years ago. We never really replaced him completely. And the person doing the job right now is just maintaining status quo. Continual improvement tab here allows agents to submit requests to the administrators on how to improve functionality in the system. And so one that I created on my demo on Tuesday is, hey, I'd like to have a field on the form to track whether the users are in the office or at home. And especially with what's going on in the world right now, that would be something very handy to have, because probably, especially if we're talking networking issues, you're going to troubleshoot that differently, whether they're in the office or at home on a VPN. So I can create a request here as an agent and say, hey, I'd like to have this thing. And then when the administrator, and I'm going to switch to the administrator screen here, when I go to my continual improvement, I can see the record is here, and then I can take that and I can say, hey, you know what, that's good. We're going to review it, maybe, or potentially reject it and say, good idea. What values do you want? and have a dialogue like that. And some of that happens sometimes, but it's going to be, hey, I crossed the administrator in the hallway, or I sent them an email. And same reason why we use a ticketing system for, whether it's HR, facilities, or IT, we need the ticketing system. Same thing here. The other huge benefits in continual improvement is something like, for example, the process demonstration guide. So the demo I am walking you guys through today, which is a high-level overview, but we go more in-depth, on later seminars, we'll drill into the individual processes. It's all here in the process demonstration guide. So you can see all the processes that are over here. So if I go into incident management, here are my various scenarios. Hey, how to demo incident management when an end user submits via self-service or via phone, email. And then here's problem management in the known error database, etc. And this is very beneficial because oftentimes when you're going to implement a solution, you're not going to implement the whole solution. So if I go back to this screen over here, which shows everything you get from day one, you're going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to implement incident. We're not ready to do problem. We're not ready to do service request. We're going to do a little bit of change, but we're not ready to do deployment. We're not ready to do purchasing or project management, etc. But the hope is that in the future, you do become ready and you do want to bring those on board. And also the hope is going to be that when that time comes, you'll be able to do it yourself through the training and experience that your administrator has. The continual improvement and the process demonstration guide plays a huge part in that, because now you can say, hey, I'm ready to implement change management, but how does it work again? Okay, hey, I'll come to my process demonstration guide, I'll go to change management, and I'll play through the scenarios. And now I'll learn how it works. And I might say, hey, you know what? I don't like the way it's configured out of the box. We do it a little bit differently. Then you got to ask yourself, the question of who's doing it better? The out-of-the-box solution doing it better, or is it the way you do it better? There's no right or wrong. And if you decide, hey, we want to do it the way we're doing it, then you just modify the configuration. Very, very easy. Another part of continual improvement is testing checklists. So every time a new version comes out or you want to roll out a new feature, we provide you, and again, in doc format as well, so that you can modify it, sample testing checklists of here's some various things to test as you either throw a new version on, or if you implement a new feature or make some changes, so that you can have sort of a starting point for your user acceptance testing. Maybe another thing I can kind of touch on real quick is if I go back as my agent here. So two other big things I kind of want to show off in terms of features. So actually maybe even a third. So event management, nothing here really to show off, but you can tie in an event monitoring tool into FootPrint, have it populate with tickets here, and then essentially every time an event triggers, an entry comes in here to which you can then open them and say, ignore, create incident, create problem, ignore, create incident, you get the idea, right? So it provides you that integration. We also have, and I'm going to show you an example in change management. So I've got a sample change record here, and whether I'm creating an incident, an HR request, a change, hopefully, and I know this is a first look for you guys, but the forms should look fairly similar. We've always got the ticket number, here, short description is next, some type and source information, status, categorization. Fields are in the same place as best as possible to keep the experience consistent. And that's not something unique to FootPrints or the FootPrints Advanced Starter template. It's kind of like basic design 101 of a system here, but far too often is overlooked and adds to the complexity of a system or the lack of people really using it, because, hey, I'm now in this module and things are so different from here that I have to relearn how to do that. We try to avoid things like that. In change management, we'll have, for example, on this record here, I have scheduled start date and end date, fairly basic stuff for change management. That ties in to an automated change calendar. And I'll show you that in a sec. Rollout plan, backout plan, change risk questionnaire. So very simple questionnaire here that will associate a risk level. Of course, starter template. So this is kind of designed to show you, here's what you could do with it. And of course, if you want to use it out of the box, by all means, but you could also say, hey, we have our own risk questionnaire and let's bring it in. Down towards the bottom here, I have an appointment section, and this is where I can see that an appointment or a calendar entry was automatically created for this change. And you can see, you know, I did this on my demo 2 days ago, so it was for a change yesterday. You know what, let's go say, hey, I missed my change window or whatever, I need to change that, so let's put that to tomorrow. So I'm going to make this change tomorrow. As soon as I save this record here, if I go back to my appointments, you'll see it's automatically been changed. And if I go to my calendar and I look at the change management, although it's there already, but if I look at the change management calendar, it's right here. It got changed automatically based on the change that I made, so I can populate my change calendar very easily from this single solution. Another bit I like showing off is preventive maintenance. This is something pretty unique. Not a lot of ITSM/ticketing tools really have something for this, but think of recurring appointments in your Outlook calendar, right? Now, usually you'll have like recurring meetings, but you might have things like, hey, every Monday, rotate the tape backups. Every Tuesday, change the combination on the lock. Every month, renew my, refill the toner in the printer. Every 6 months, renew my subscription. Anything that you can schedule like that, you can add in preventive maintenance. And preventive maintenance is available to every agent user in the system. So it's not even just an administrative function. I can create, and I've got some sample ones here. I can, if I take this one here and look at it, so this is a sample one that I said, hey, just run every day, daily every day. So I can put in my information about this preventive maintenance here. I can optionally put start times and end times if I want it to show up on the calendar. Such as like, hey, I don't know, I want to schedule my recurring team meeting. If you really wanted to do it in FootPrints, you could. Now, of course, you probably shouldn't for something like that, but you could. And that integrates into the calendar like I showed you, and the calendar optionally can integrate with either Exchange or Office 365. So I have my information here. You can see every single day a record has been created. And then you can see my recurrence information over here. So I want this to be daily or weekly or monthly or yearly, repeat every day or every 2 days or every 3 days, end after either a certain number of occurrences or a specific date or no end dates, and then a pattern, which will, be different based on what I'm choosing. So I can do weekly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or monthly, first day of the month, or on the, first day of the month, or the first Monday of the month, or something like that, the first Monday, etc. So very powerful, a lot of options here that you can use for anything that you would need to schedule. So in terms of what I really wanted to cover for today, outside of a few things on the administrative side that I'm going to get into, that's pretty much it. We're hoping to have future demos or future webinars where we can get more in-depth, more granular on each of the different processes to show off extra features that, I would have skipped over today. A couple other things I wanted to show off before I hand it back to Joe. On the administrative side of the house here, just to give you a quick example of how easy it is to administrate the tool here, the big thing is no coding required, right? And that is a huge thing, especially when you compare it to some of the enterprise level solutions. Common example is always going to be a product like Remedy. You can do absolutely everything with Remedy, but it might take you a couple months to code it. Whereas you could say, hey, I can achieve, 3/4 of what I'm looking for in FootPrints, and I can do it in a day. There is an ease of implementation here. There's also a huge cost factor difference here. So to show you, we had our continual improvement here. Hey, I'd like to have a new field on the form to track if the user's working from home or not. So I'm going to go into my incident form, which is in service request, or service desk, into incident. I have my agent form over here, and probably, okay. So I have my form here. What you see is what you get. So if I want to add a new form, whether they're working from home or not, okay, so I have to decide, am I going to do this as a checkbox? Check here if they're working from home. Am I going to do it as a drop-down? You know what? Probably making it a drop-down makes a lot more sense. So I'm going to go to my form controls here. I can see all the different types of fields I can create, and I'm going to take my drop-down and drag it somewhere on the form that will make sense for, the type of field this is. So this is a working from home. You know what? It might make sense to put it in with the contact information. So I'm going to put it, let's say, right over here. I'm going to create a new field for this and call it work location, let's say. And I'm going to make it a required field because, let's be honest, drop-down field should never be optional because no one's ever going to fill it out. And I'm going to say in office, from home, other location, hey, client site, in case, you're at a client site, other location, something like that. So I add my choices, there they are. I save the new field, and that's pretty much it. I've now created the field. Once this saves, I'll go back to my form. I'll have to then save my form. So you can see the field is here. I can even assign it a default value, although from a design standpoint, I generally recommend against doing that because then people tend to not change it from the default value, but the option is there. So I'm going to save my form, and I'm pretty much done. The only thing left to do is to commit the changes to the live environment. So although I'm in my quote-unquote live environment, if I look at my container, it is not published. It is in a draft state. So I would have to publish my container in order to commit the change to the live environment. It's really that easy. Other kind of key things that I can show off on the administration side here, again, without going too much into the weeds, but the two big things are the business logic, which is business rules, and workflows. So workflows is one of the big ones. And actually, it looks better if I present it to you in a linear process like change management. So I'm going to go into change management and show you the normal change. And so think Visio diagram, right? So I have a start, an end, and these are all my different statuses that I go through. So when I create a change, it's going to start in draft, and then next up it goes to planning, and then next up it goes to CAB approval, which is an approval process. And from there, it can either be approved and move forward, or it can be rejected, and in this case, in this particular design, that's the end of the road because it just goes to closed. And like I said, this is the out-of-the-box design. You can completely configure that and say, hey, you know what? If I reject a change, I don't want it to be closed. I want it to go back to draft, let's say. So there it is. I drew my line. I can place it, make it look a little nicer, and that's pretty much it. And then save, and you're done. In this case, I'm not going to save because I don't want to make too many changes to my demo environment. Business logic is another big thing, and I'll go back to the service desk here for that. And you can give you an idea of, although our philosophy is to keep things simple from a usability standpoint. That does mean there are, potentially a lot of business rules, but a lot is really relative because you can have some environments that might have 10 or 20. You can have some environments that have literally hundreds. And so in our case here, we've got about 100 business rules on the incident side. They cover everything, setting the priorities, sending out emails, assigning the tickets. Really anything that needs to be done is as a business rule. And all of the business rules, if I take a notification business rule, for example, notify the assignees on create. So if I look at this business rule, they're all pretty much the same. They have a trigger, they have a criteria, one or more, and they have actions, one or more. Very standard stuff, very easy to do. And if I edit this, no coding whatsoever. Hey, what do I want to do? Okay, I want to do one of these things. Okay, and then depending on what you pick, the options change. I want to send an email. Who do I want to send it to? What email template do I want to use? And how do I want to, set the importance on the email? Very easy stuff. Last thing I got time to cover on is segueing into email. So I'm going to switch into one of my other VMs here, just because that's where my email client resides. So I'm going to go over here. So this is the emails that would have come in, via FootPrints. So if I go to Sam, my end user, when he created a ticket, he got an email, right? And like everything else in the system, completely configurable. You can see, here's my email, for immediate assistance, call this, blah, 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 click here to view your ticket, here's some details, and then here's the notes. And when Twizel updated the ticket, he got an update email. And I can see, again, same sort of information. The notes was updated by Twizel. Hey, Sam, did you try rebooting your phone? And I can say, I did. It didn't do anything. And that will send the email back into FootPrints to update that ticket. The last little bit I want to showcase is closure notifications. So we do things a little bit differently. So this is a closure email. So two things you might notice here is one are the smiley faces. Now I call them the airport smileys. I don't know if you've been to airports, hospitals, cruise ships. They'll often have those little kiosks, the little stand with the 4 buttons. And, you just mash whatever button based on how you're feeling like. And the reporting you get out of that is huge because now you can tell, without having done any kind of survey, you can tell how people are feeling based on certain locations, certain times of day, certain types of requests. Optionally, if they want to fill out a survey, they can do that as well. And surveys are provided to them on every single closure. So rather than say, hey, you've been randomly selected for a survey and you're never going to fill it out because you were randomly selected and you didn't care to fill it out, it's there all the time. Because, Murphy's Law, if you've had a really great experience with a service desk, or probably more importantly, a very bad experience, odds are you're not going to get a random survey. So here, we give the option every time. The survey is also completely configurable. And again, with our philosophy, KISS, keep it simple. So we just ask the bare minimum questions. The surveys, when they're filled out, are tied back to the original ticket. So you can always tell, what this survey relates to. How well did we handle your request? How responsive? How knowledgeable? How satisfied? Very easy. Very satisfied, satisfied, not very satisfied. And I could say, hey, you know what? I wasn't very satisfied. What can we do to help you in the next time, right? Give them all these prompts. Do you want someone to contact you? If yes, okay. You prefer phone or email? Don't even have to plug in your phone or email because guess what? You're in our ticketing system. We have that in the record. So very nice features to have, which are kind of normally outside of the standard design of the system. So that's pretty much all I had for today to show you guys. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of a introduction into FootPrints and the FootPrints Advanced Starter template. And actually, there's one last thing I want to cover real quick. I apologize. I meant to cover this earlier. On the administration side of the house, I have a tab here, Session and License Usage. So very important from an administrative or audit or licensing and maintenance perspective is this tracks every single user logging into the system and giving you the history by default up to a year. So I can see when people are logging in and out. Okay, not super useful, but nice to have. So if I log out as Twizel right now, you'll see he's still logged in. And the moment I log out and then come back over here and refresh, now he's been logged out. The real nice part here is the license usage. And what this does is every hour on the hour, it will count the number of licenses, of FootPrints licenses used. So I can see here, if I look at this record here, which came in 50 minutes ago, I can see that my entitlement for this software gives me 15 named licenses, 5 concurrent licenses. At 1 o'clock, I was using one of the named licenses, and I was using one of the concurrent licenses. So my usage percentages are over here. This helps you gauge your busy times in the day and also helps you gauge whether or not you need additional licenses or whether or not you need to convert concurrent licenses to named or vice versa. Now, getting into the specifics of what they are and when you need each is a little bit beyond today's demo here, but it gives you all of that information so that you can make an informed decision anytime renewal comes around, every year when you got to renew your maintenance, or if you say, hey, you know what, we've implemented the software, we're now ready to onboard, let's say, HR. Well, HR is going to bring 20 more people into the system. Do I have enough licenses, or do I need to get more? I'm going to end it at that for here today and pass it back to Joe.
All right, thanks, Nick. That was awesome. And just to kind of take us home, we're going to enter into the Q&A phase. Again, if you still have questions, go ahead and enter those as we're going through, and we'll get to each of them as we go. First question I have, and probably is best left for the final slide, is how is this priced? And as you kind of mentioned it there, I guess, with the licensed named users and the concurrent users, or a mix and match of those there. But one of the questions is, can I create tickets with email?
Helps if I unmute myself. Absolutely. So you can create and update tickets via email for any of the processes, whether it's incident or service request, or potentially things like change, HR, facilities, etc. It's all configurable on a per item basis.
Okay, and is there an asset management function?
So that question has different answers depending on how you define asset management function. So it does have a CMDB, configuration management database, where you can store your assets, which is, pretty much any ITSM system will have that. It does not have an IT asset management system, which is usually going to be your discovery tool and automation. However, it does integrate natively with a sister product of FootPrints called Client Management, which handles the discovery and management of your assets in a fashion similar to, you guys might be more familiar with Microsoft SCCM.
All right. So will this prevent me from upgrading to future versions of FootPrints?
Absolutely not. So this is a starting point. And really what it is think of having purchased the product and then spent, depending on, let's say you want to implement every single feature that is available in FAST. That would be the equivalent of buying the product and then buying a year's worth of professional consulting services to set it up. Well, instead of having to spend a year's worth of consulting services to set it up, you get it from day one for free.
Right. I have two questions that are very similar. So let's go with, is there anything implemented by the FAST model may become an issue when upgrading to a newer version of FootPrints?
No. So everything done within the FootPrints Advanced Starter template is purely configuration, or what I like to call it pre-configuration. It's configuration, but it's just done before day zero. So nothing, the FootPrints as a product has been around for about 20 years. It got a major rewrite from scratch 6 years ago. The FootPrints Advanced Starter template has been around for the last 5 years. No issues. Integrates natively, or functions natively. I shouldn't even say integrates. It is the product. So no issues whatsoever.
Okay, so the sister question to that is, am I locked into any functionality, or can we change the design? I think we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're not locked into any functionality. The only thing I could kind of caveat or warn you about is, and this is true of any system. Hey, I just became the administrator of company ABC's system. You can't just go in there and start changing things willy-nilly, because that might impact some of the other business logic that's there already. So anytime you can make changes to absolutely anything. You just have to make sure that you're not negatively impacting any other functionality that's in the system.
Right. Do you have a mobile app?
Sorry, say that one again?
Do you have a mobile app?
No, but we don't need one because we have a mobile interface. So unlike requiring a specific app to be installed and only supporting certain devices, we have a mobile HTML5 interface that can be run in any mobile or even non-mobile browsers for that.
Where did I leave off? Sorry. Is there a possibility of a one-on-one vendor and customer live Q&A? That's absolutely possible, and we will give you the contact information on our closing slide. If you can just be patient. Same is true with the education pricing question. You'll have contact information that you can reach out to at the end of the presentation and make note of those and contact the salespeople. One's more of a product roadmap question. It says, do you know if there's any plan to implement status-based permissions of field in the way it worked in Footprint 11?
Sorry, Joe, you were a little choppy there. Can you say that last one again?
I'm sorry. It's kind of a long question. Do you know if there's any plan to implement status-based permissions of fields in the way it worked in Footprints 11X? Now, I think I'll jump into this one. Really and truly, the best way to see that is to go to the communities page, look at the ideas that are submitted, search on that particular concept, see if it's reached a level of votes that it's going to be incorporated, whether or not it's under review or whether or not it's on the roadmap. That information would be there.
Correct. And I'd just like to add to that there is a little bit of a way of getting around that today. It certainly doesn't replace the functionality that was there prior, but it kind of delivers a part of it, and that is using field dependencies. And so I can say, hey, like let's say, for example, I want a resolution field to be required when the status is set to resolve. So the way you would do that today is you create your resolution field, you make it resolve, and then you hide it via field dependency so it only shows up once the status is set to resolve.
Well, that's really all the questions we have for today. So again, on the closing slide, notice at the bottom, there's some contact information, both BMC and RJR. I'll give you time to write that down. Other resources that are available are our communities page, as obviously I just referenced. There's the footprintsservicedesk.com website, and of course, product support with all the documentation is available online. And of course, there's as part of the communities, there's also knowledge-based searches. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, and really look forward to having you guys join us for the next installment of our fast walkthrough. And as Nick said, we'll be going through other areas of the product and drilling into some of those extra functions that have been designed by Nick. Right? So with that, I want to thank everybody and wish you a great day.